Okay. Welcome into the Off-Brand Avalanche podcast. The Avs got the win. It wasn't necessarily the prettiest win of the season, but hey, overtime win over the Ducks. Some positive takeaways, some negative takeaways. We'll get into all of it, but first, guys, do you have your victory shots ready?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm ripping the Deep Eddies Real Grapefruit.
All right.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
That sounds
that's
good.
what I'm going with. Hold on. Okay. Zach.
We don't prepare
I
before.
tossed it
We're
back.
good. All right, ready, boys? As soon as
Zach
Marsh is
just
ready.
went with it.
I tossed it back.
Oh,
Oh,
I
Zach
know.
tossed it back.
We were
I
ready.
can't open it, dude. Okay, I finally got mine going.
All right, boys. We came out with the win tonight. For the first two periods, it didn't necessarily look like we deserved it. Took a lot of penalties, which is not good. Led up a lot of shots. They had, in the first half of the game, the Ducks had 22 shots on net, which would have put them on pace for 44. Luckily, we stepped it up towards the end of the game, but an absurd
Dude.
number.
And the Avs had 4 shots in the second period, so it's like, what can you really do about that? What you can do about that is go out there and get a win.
Right.
So-
That's
And
true.
not take penalties next time.
If we lost this game,
Let's not
What'd you
take
say,
so many
Billy?
penalties next time.
yes, for real. But yeah, it's a big different story if we lose
Yeah.
this game. Thank God we win. I don't
Oh
really
my
care that we
goodness.
give up a point,
Mhm.
but the
No,
storylines
no.
coming out of this game if we lose would be pretty interesting. And they touched on it in intermission about certain Avs players not playing very good and people need to step it up. Sod. But that'd be my number one
Yes.
who needs to step it up. He's been invisible throughout the first 5 games
Yeah.
it is now.
He's
been
got the one
invisible.
goal and not much else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he had a pretty solid chance. I don't remember second period maybe, but dude, yeah. He hasn't really necessarily looked like he fits in with the Avs at this point. The Avs like to, play that up tempo, high pace type of game, and Saad's not necessarily looking like that so far. I'm not saying that he won't end up looking like he's a part of the Avs, but to this point, he is one of the big guys that needs to step it up, along with really the entire second freaking line.
Yeah, the whole second
Yeah.
line, as Karim mentions in the chat, hasn't shown up this year. Nazem Kadri has been a ghost. Andrei Burakovsky's been great in the
Yeah.
2 games that he played. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
Getting him back will help with that whole second line, but they were not good today. They haven't been great this season, and they're going to hit their groove, but right now it's not there.
And
Yeah.
this was one aspect that I was so excited for the Avs going into the season. It's like, whatever line combinations you come up with. I know Landy started on the second line, but then it transitioned into Berkey, Landy, Berkey, Sod, and Kadri on the second line. And that was still really exciting to me because that's super dynamic, especially with Burakovsky, bringing that absolutely elite shot and playmaking ability. Maybe he is the missing ingredient on that second line, but to this point, it's like Kadri and Saad need to step it up a bit, and we saw that entirely tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, not only them. To me, it's the whole bottom 9 needs to really
Yeah.
step up the game.
That's fair.
Yeah,
It's been pretty embarrassing for everybody but Matt Calvert. So
yeah,
and not only that, the third pairing defensemen tonight, Graves and Patterson, played absolutely atrocious. They were awful.
yeah.
So that was, it's not good to see. We have an abundance of talent on defense, so we can't be playing like that.
No, and that's why it's going to be interesting to see what these D pairings are going to look like moving into the future now, because we have 9 players that could legitimately be pushing for a spot amongst those 6 starting spots.
Exactly.
So it
And after tonight,
Yeah.
you don't take Bo and Byram out. But before we talk about something that we
No.
really liked tonight, which was Bo and Byram, why don't you go ahead and leave a like on our video? You see that transition there? But leave a like on this video if you're watching, help us grow a little bit. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But Bowen Byram was absolutely incredible
Outstanding.
tonight.
Okay.
He showed why he was the fourth
Okay.
overall pick. Marshall, take it away.
I don't necessarily want to get into Bo and Byram right now because he was super exciting. But Karim brings up a super freaking good point. I feel like nobody can together more than three passes together. I definitely botched that. But other than the first line, sticks were all over the place tonight, especially in the second period. Duck sticks were just in all of the passing lanes, in all of the shooting lanes, and we couldn't get anything actually like cycling. And that was so frustrating to me. Um, passes just aren't looking super crisp right now. And that's definitely something that I think will eventually evolve. But right now, man, even in in last night's Sharks game, it's just that these opponents are just getting all their sticks in the way, and we can't really set up anything outside of that.
Yeah, the whole bottom, like, no one else was getting anything really done as far as momentum was concerned for the forwards. One guy that I want to point out, we haven't even mentioned, Martin Kaut made his season debut tonight, and he's kind of a ghost. Didn't necessarily get a ton of playing time,
Yeah.
especially with the Avs so much time on special teams, but he also took a penalty, which isn't great. And of the games he's played so far in his couple of seasons with the Avs, this I think was probably his worst.
Jim with the comment here. Bo's got bigger rocks than the Rockies. So maybe we should start touching on Bo here because, yeah, he does. In the third period, he actually
That
electrified
assist,
the team.
his first career point, incredible. Through the skate, through everyone, right to Mikko. Mikko kind of flubbed it, but it went in anyway. And it was a veteran play made by a 19-year-old rookie.
Right. And to me, the amazing part about that is 2 plays before that, he absolutely handles Getzloff and makes a fantastic move to the net. And then the Avs face a little bit of adversity. Patterson and Graves come out and let up a 2-on-1, get scored on. And then he comes out and makes that amazing pass. Bo was outstanding tonight. Even if we lost, he'd been the highlight of the game for sure.
You had the events a little bit mixed up there.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. But still, it's okay. But either way, Zach, you make a great point with his first original scoring chance. Mm-hmm. If anyone has ever watched Bo Byram highlights, that first scoring chance when he cuts down the left side of the lane and drives to the middle, like makes a little shimmy move and then drives to the middle, backhander. He scored so many goals in the WHL with the Vancouver Giants doing that exact same thing. And so that's extremely exciting to see him try to transition that into the NHL. And then, follows that up next shift, heads up the entire way, drives down the left freaking lane again, and just finds Rance just on
he loves that play, and there's a reason for it because he does it well and he has a lot of success with it. And tonight he really flashed the elite offensive ability that we knew he had. We just didn't know how long was it before we got to see it at the NHL level.
Yeah, no. I mean, and not only like those 2 scoring chances that he had there in the third period, they were showing some highlights on altitude of just the small plays that he was making, the defensive plays that he was making in our zone. Something that you don't necessarily expect out of a 19-year-old defenseman.
He saved a goal.
He did, and that's something that wasn't even shown on the highlight reel. Just a between the legs pass deep in his own zone to Rantanen, quick and easy breakout. I was extremely impressed by Byram, and there's no way that we can pull him out.
It's pretty clear at this time that Byram stays in the lineup. I don't think there's any question about it, especially after tonight. He played incredible on both sides of the ice. He got the assist to Rantanen. Grubauer helped him save a goal, obviously, with that amazing getting the stick there, but it was still trickling in, and Byram pulled it out and got the sticks and just took it behind the net, which was a great heads-up play by him. And, you got to love what you see out of the 4th overall pick. So I'm really happy with
Yeah.
that, and if we didn't get to see as much a real shift with him and Makar or any extended look at that, but the future is bright with those two as a top pairing, and I cannot wait to see it. Makar himself, not a
Well,
perfect game, but he did have shots on net this time. A little
yes, he
bit more
did.
willing to shoot the
Yes.
puck. He had 4 shots on net, so I'm happy with that.
But circling back, I like Zach that you did bring up that second Anaheim goal was a bit frustrating because it was after Bo made that terrific
Mm-hmm.
play out to Rantanen, and and it was a 2-1 game, and then all of a sudden there was a defensive collapse. Kadri blows a tire in the offensive zone, and all of a sudden it's a 2-on-1. And Zach, you said this when we were downstairs. Grubauer can't make every save, and that was just a perfect play by the Ducks.
For sure. All right, so let's
So
talk a little bit about Grubauer because Grubauer, I thought, despite the 2 goals he let in, I thought this was up there as one of his best games of the season so far, and that's including the other 2 wins where he had the shutout in the 8-0 win and the 3-2 win over the Kings. He made some great saves, and neither of the 2 goals I think were his fault at all.
no.
No, he's probably my second star of the game behind John Gibson. Obviously, he played
Yeah.
amazing, stopping McKinnon on the penalty shot. We haven't even talked about that yet, but
No.
like, wow, that was an amazing game. And Grubauer just kept making save after save after save to keep us in the game when we really needed to, when the boys couldn't get anything
Mm-hmm.
going. So, once again, hats off to Grub. Like,
Yeah, I
great game
mentioned they had
for him.
22
Yeah.
shots on goal in the first 30 minutes of this game, and guess what? Only one of those went in. So, a testament to how
Yeah.
well Grubauer played.
Yeah, a couple things there, Billy. I know you touched on that first sequence where Bo, like, brought that puck out of the net pretty much, made a really calm play. Grubauer made two terrific
Mm-hmm.
saves that probably actually ended up saving the game. There were multiple times in this game, especially in the third period. I don't remember who shot that puck when he was going like right to left a little bit, just did the full splits and saved that puck from going in the net. There were some instances in this game where it's like, Grubauer can be that guy, and that narrative that like Grubauer might not be the number one goaltender on a Stanley Cup team. I think that's shut up a little bit tonight because he played absolutely terrific, and if we get Grubauer's number one game like this all the time, then dude, he could lead us to a Stanley Cup. It's whether or not the players in front of him can kind of ride that wagon. And a lot of people forget that he was the number one goaltender during the regular season when the Washington Capitals won the Stanley Cup in 2018.
Yeah.
So this is a high caliber goaltender. If we can keep him healthy and we can keep him on his A game, um, it's going to be pretty exciting to see what he can
Which,
do
to
this
be
season.
fair, those are definitely some ifs because he's been injured in the playoffs twice now. He's also, well, I guess he was played the full Calgary and Sharks playoffs, but he's been injured in the playoffs and he's been inconsistent at times. He's gone through slumps, but Grubauer at his best is a very, very good goalie. I would argue pushing a top 10 goalie in the league when he's playing well. It's just a matter of getting him playing and playing well on a regular basis.
Right. I'm not too worried about it, honestly. Gruby, he seems like he's locked in, and well, it really I'm concerned about Francouz, to be honest with you, and what's going on with
Mm-hmm.
him. The backup goaltending situation could be interesting this year, so see what's going on there.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're going to have to
I
wait and
know.
see till we get some information on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I know last night we were talking a little bit about the PLD rumors, trying to get another defenseman out of the Avs lineup to try to make some room for the Timmins and the Byrams and the Johnsons. But some of the rumors that I have seen that is kind of correlating to that is for another goaltender. So I don't necessarily know what. Like, do you guys know anything about Francouz's status at this point?
We have gotten no information from the Avalanche at this point,
Yeah.
so all we know is he is on the reserve list. He is essentially it's going back to the playoffs when everyone's just unfit to play. That's all the information we get. We
Yeah.
He's apparently day to day. So, but the Avs, the Avs used the word day to day to mean pretty much anything. Last year, I believe Colin Wilson was day to day for the entirety of the season. So, it
Yeah.
could be he could be back tomorrow, or he could be back in 6 weeks. It's just a matter of, I mean, it's just information that we'll get it when we get it.
It would
Right.
be
And
nice. Go ahead,
go
Zach.
ahead, Marshall.
Oh, I was just kind of going back to Karim's comments in the chat here. It's like, hopefully we hear something about Frankie's dealing with soon. And he says day to day, and at this point, like Billy said, we don't know what that means, and it's pretty scary on back to backs. Like we saw what Miska can do last night. He played a good game, but it's not necessarily going to be the second goaltender on a championship team.
Yeah, exactly. Which, uh, if Grubauer plays as well as he has been, then we're gonna feel a little bit better about it. But I don't necessarily want to see Grubauer play 45 games this season because he has had problems with durability, and we need Francouz back because we need to give Grubauer some rest. And with Miska backing up, we're just not going to be doing that. Although, uh, it'll be interesting to see. I think the first big hint we're going to get on Francouz's status is actually going to be whether or not the Avs call up Adam Warner from the taxi squad. You need him on the taxi squad for 7 days before he's allowed to be called up. If at the end of those 7 days Adam Warner is not called up and Miska sent down to the taxi squad, I would say that might be a positive sign from Frankie because I do believe that if the Avs want one of their third goalies playing, it would be Warner over Miska.
I would agree with that for sure. Yeah. I just hope he's well. We need him for sure.
We do.
It's like we haven't seen him in a game yet this season.
Exactly.
So.
It's still early in the season, so it's not a super massive concern so far, but it is definitely something to monitor. Similar case with Burakovsky. We've got the same amount of information. It's basically no information. We know that he's not playing today, and we have no idea when he will be playing again. So hopefully it's soon. We would love to have those guys back, but positives, tonight we won. So we got to kind of build on that. We do play Anaheim again. What I really want to see the Avs do is break this groove of not playing well. In our last 3 games, we've got an overtime win, a loss, and a 3-2 win over the Kings against teams that I really just want to see the Avs really take it to one of these weaker teams because we blew out the St. Louis Blues, which is very impressive, but let's play an Avalanche game, an Avalanche put up all the goals style game against one of the teams that we should be doing it to.
Right. Yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully, see the Avalanche string together 3, 4, or 5 games here. Like seriously, this is a team that can do that, and against the teams we're playing in our division, it should be happening most of the time. Yeah, that's all I could really say about that.
Yeah. I mean, outside of the Knights and the Blues, we should be showing our best effort against the rest of the division. And to this point, I don't necessarily think we have. The one game and the only game really that has impressed me in this season is the 8-0 win against St. Louis because I do feel like that was an entire team effort. We won 8-0 and 7 different players got goals. And that's kind of the type of disparity that you're looking for on a championship team. And moving forward, I'd like to see, like Zach said multiple times, like the bottom 9 start to get going because the top line to this point has no problems. And we've seen that in years past, but it's kind of who's behind them and who's going to start kind of carrying that second load of the wagon behind the first line. So, I'm just looking for Kadri to have, a breakout game here or there, Saad to have a breakout game here or there, and truly how much Burakovsky does mean to that second line whenever he does get back.
And Marshall, you touched on.
I totally
go ahead,
agree.
Zach.
And just based on the bad play, especially I'm going to focus on the bottom 6 here. From the bottom 6, how long do you think until we see more Martin Kaut per se, or maybe a Shane Bowers I was talking. This can go into the trade conversation as well. I think we need to evaluate these pieces and see what they can do before we make any more drastic
Hmm.
changes to the roster with our abundance
Yeah.
of wealth per
I
se.
would like to
Yeah.
see Bowers get into a game, and part of that is just that of all the players we're talking about that haven't been playing very well, I think maybe the worst might be Pierre-Edouard Belmar, who just doesn't look like he belongs out there.
He did play awful
I
tonight, just awful.
I don't think he's
I
played very well this season at
I
all. Really,
disagree.
you thought Belmar looked good?
I No, I do not think. I don't think he looked great, but Zach and I were talking about it. I think Jost is looking like absolute shit. I know his
Yeah.
underlying numbers are just fine. Like he plays a solid defensive side of the game. But dude, to this point, it's like whenever he gets the puck, it's like he either gets bodied off of it, even in the face off. Like there was a point there was a point, Zach, I know you know where I'm going with this because like there was a point when they're like, oh yeah, we're sending out Nichushkin and Jost for this penalty kill, and then immediately offensive zone face off, and Jost just gets pushed down on on the face off. It's just, dude, at this point, it's like I think we kind of need to move off of Jost. To begin the game, he was put on the fourth line. I know Bez was trying to shuffle a little bit, and Jost ended up being put on the third line. That didn't work either. I think he needs a little bit more of an opportunity on a little bit worse of a team, and I think he's more of a trade piece than anyone on the forward
The
side.
tough
So
problem with
yeah,
moving Jost is that he doesn't free up any cap space. So if you're trying to bring someone in that does take up cap space, you're gonna have to send out someone else along with Jost because he's got like 700,000 against the cap. So that is one tough aspect of it. I think
That's
if you're
fair.
trying to bring in a real
Good point.
piece, you are gonna have to move someone of with a little bit more substance, especially in regards to salary.
but see, I think Jost poses a higher trade value right now than pretty much anyone else in the bottom six. I don't know why it is. Maybe because he still has that 10th overall stigma and he has like a little bit of talent to him. But I think if we're looking at any of the forwards to be moved, I think it's got to be Jost at this point. And we've been mentioning this since the bubble. I mean, he was the 13th forward in the bubble. Didn't get into like game 3 in the round robin, I believe. So it's a bit of a concern to me.
I mean,
Mhm.
I'd agree with you that Jost hasn't played very well this season, but I'm looking at this from the perspective of let's not necessarily move anyone off the roster, but if we're just shuffling things on the lineup, it's a lot easier for me to stomach having Belmar out of the lineup than it is for Jost. I think that Jost has more offensive
Yes.
upside than Belmar does, and other than bringing faceoffs, he's won a lot of faceoffs, which is great. But when Belmar has the puck on his stick, he just doesn't, especially in the offensive zone, he just doesn't look like he knows what he's doing out there right now.
Yeah, that's fair. But there's a lot of players on the Avalanche. Maybe not a lot, but there's a few of them on the Avs right now that look that way. And especially when the lines get jumbled on the power play, that power play is looking very funny. But even though it's pretty good, I just had to mention that because it looks absolutely
Yeah.
disjointed and hilarious.
Okay, Jim brings up a good point here, though. I know Cal had a quiet game, but his hockey IQ looks superior to Joseph's already, and Joseph is a guy I want to root for.
Yeah, that's the
Yes,
problem with Jost. I love
I want.
Jost.
Yes, his personality is awesome, and we've seen that since the bubble. All of his like Avs 360, moments and all that. He seems like an awesome locker room guy, somebody that you'd want to root for. But at this point, it's like, dude, we got to see what we have with Cow and Shane Bowers and all those guys. So I'm just not too sure how much longer that leash is before we start to see more of Cow and more of Bowers before Joe gets pulled out of the lineup.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the Avs decide to play their prospects. I mean, trading Ian Cole for Patterson says something, especially on the defensive end, saying they want to get their guys in. So maybe that extends to the whole team. Maybe they do want to be getting all their forwards into the lineup. So maybe they play some of these prospects a little bit more. I'd certainly love to see it. You guys know I've been pounding the table to bring Bowers in for a little while, and it just hasn't
Well,
happened
I
quite
think we all
yet.
have.
So we got to see it. We also got to see more secondary scoring as a whole. Whatever shakeup we need to get that going, because looking back at the past couple of years, what is the biggest difference between the eighth seed that upset the overrated Calgary Flames and last year's two seed that ended up losing because we had some goaltending issues and injury issues? One team was great and the other team was just all right. And the biggest difference was the team last year was getting secondary scoring, and the team 2 years ago wasn't. They were a
Yeah.
one line team. And so far this year, we have been a one line team, which we cannot be and expect to be the contender that we think we are.
Yeah, I feel that. And to Krim's point, LOC on that fourth line, I don't know. That's an interesting one right there. That's interesting. I love LOC as much as the next guy, but I don't know about that.
Dude, I think LOC on the fourth line would be better than Jost.
I disagree with
Wow.
that. I think
Okay,
LOC is
I've
a
been
great fill in
Wow.
for Calvert. I think if Calvert gets hurt, LOC is a stylistic
okay.
fill in. I think other than that, I think
Yes.
there's guys you want to put in ahead of him.
Okay, I agree, but then what drum have we been, like pounding over the last, 6 months? It's like Joe says he's not stylistically a fourth line player. And to have Jost on that fourth line is a bit of a disappointment because he stylistically he matches way better as a third line, second line type of guy. LOC, he is the perfect fourth line guy. And really even Shane Bowers to that point. Like he can play a shutdown game. I know Joe's can, but dude, he at least LOC can like skate with the rest of the Avs. He has that speed, which is stylistically what the Avs are trying to do at this point. So I think LOC on the fourth line is a better fit than Jost on the fourth line. I don't necessarily think it would be the same as a third line type of player, but you got to kind of see what you have there.
Right. I guess to that point, I can agree with you, Marshall, totally. That fit wise, LOC is better on the fourth line than Jost would be. I think everybody would agree with that for sure. It's just Jost. It hurts so much. It might be about that time to get him out of here, but
I
it's really painful.
I agree that Jost
It is.
is not the LOC is the better stylistic fit of the two. I don't necessarily think that means he would improve that fourth line today. I think that Jost is still the better player of the
Right,
two.
man.
I think that if I think that the fourth line is still better today with Tyson Jost than it would be with LOC. Maybe I'm wrong. We've seen LOC play well, but we've
Okay.
also seen very small sample sizes of LOC. He is still a young player that hasn't proven much, and he has very little offensive upside. Jim compares him
Neither does
to
Jost at this
Nieto
point.
in the chat. Nieto, the difference between O'Connor and Nieto to me is Nieto scored every once in a while, and LOC does not.
And we haven't seen that from LOC
Yeah.
though. We have at this point, LOC scores as much as Jost does.
Not quite.
Billy, what when we
He had about
if
if
we-
you extrapolate his
I don't-
career, he's got about 5 points in. Actually, I don't even know if he's got that. His first year he didn't have any points. Last year he had 2 goals.
Yeah, because he's strictly a fourth line player. And when we look, I know maybe by the next pod we can like actually extrapolate these stats and the data. But when Jost is on the fourth line, how many points does he have? When LOC is on the fourth line, how many points does he have? And the thing is, Billy, is when we drafted Jost, what was he slotted as? Like he was not at all slotted as a fourth line player.
Mm-hmm.
He was like supposed to be our 2C of the future. When he brought him in that abysmal 2016-2017 season, at the end of the year, Josh was supposed to be that guy that could slot in as the 2C. And at this point, it's like, he's scratching the third line, fourth line, not even center position. Like he's playing on the wings, Confer and Belmar are still ahead of him on those center positions. And that's extremely disappointing. And that's why I think he deserves a shot on another team that he can maybe live up to his potential a little bit more with. And LOC, dude, he was undrafted, played at DU. It's like, this is a guy that, like, you don't necessarily need to see him on the third or second line. He, thrives on those, like, small roles. And that's kind of all I have to say about
I mean,
that.
I'm not necessarily. I don't really care where he was drafted. I care about what he is today. And both of them they're a lot closer today than they were when they were drafted. And yes, we did draft Jost to be a 2C, but right now he's a bottom six forward, and he's a bottom six forward on a very good contract, and he's producing at the level you want out of a bottom six forward. Maybe not tonight, maybe not so far this season in 5 games, but last year he was perfectly serviceable as a bottom six forward. I think that he continues to be, and if someone wants to make us an offer of substance to send Tyson Jost somewhere else, then I'm perfectly fine with that. You know what? If we can get something for him, I think that we've got guys that slot into that role. But I'm not gonna get rid of him just for the sake of getting rid of him, because I still think that he is a good option right now.
I'm ready to see some new players for sure, especially on that bottom six. And if that's LLC, if that's Cal, if that's Bowers, then I'm kind of in for it.
But see, what's going on in the chat right now is that, you remember how dynamic and, like, productive our fourth line was last season?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Doing what they were really good at doing.
Just grinding.
Jost does not fit that role.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have the speed that LOC does, or like a Nieto did last season. Just that grinding type of role. And that's why, like, dude, I think it's time to at least see what LOC has, or a Bowers, or someone, because Jost, he doesn't fit any type of role in our lineup right now, and it's kind of sad to see. But I think that's just the truth.
All right. I mean, it looks like we're going to disagree a little bit on this one, but that's why the Avs are going to have to make some tough decisions.
He has more talent. He has more talent than anyone on the fourth line. But what does that say? What does that say? It's like he's had years to try to establish himself as a second liner, even as a first liner at some points, dude. But then he keeps falling back in the lineup year after year, and then he is not a fourth line player, dude. That's just not what he does.
He's been effective at it, though.
He thrives with being better players.
He has been an effective fourth line player, sometimes third line player, but he's been effective in that role before. And if he's effective at it, you're not going to throw him away, especially on the contract he's on. So,
but where do those effective? What does that mean, Billy? Because how many reps has he gotten on the fourth line? And when he has been on the fourth line hasn't been anything like we've seen in the past 1 or 2 years. The fourth line on the Avalanche has been one of our selling points. Dude, like last year with Belmar, Calvert, and Nieto, that was one of the best fourth lines in the league. To this point, our fourth line has looked abysmal, especially with the shuffling
And
players.
if you were asking me about bringing Nieto back versus taking out Jost, then I would absolutely agree with you. I would definitely put Nieto on that fourth line, because I think that profile worked a lot better. But I know that Logan O'Connor is closer to Matt Nieto than Tyson Jost is, but he's still not Matt Nieto, which is why at this point I would rather have
we
Tyson
don't
Jost.
know what this.
Which, Marshall, we're going to have to agree to disagree on this one, because we got to move on to some other topics. The Avs come back in and play the Ducks in 2 more days. We've got some guys that are playing well right now. We got some guys that aren't playing so well. Who, in your opinion, are you most looking forward to seeing take a step up? Who do you really think needs to step up the most? And what do you want to see out of the Avs in 2 days?
So to me, I'm just going to go with the bottom 9, more specifically the second line. They need to establish their play, and I'm looking for the boys, just to play their game, establish the cycle in the zone, have some dominant, minute-long shifts in the zone, and just put more than 3 goals in the net. We're more than capable of that. So that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Have we scored a goal in the bottom 9 outside of the power play this year.
I think
We don't have
didn't
many goals at
Donskoy get
all
one
outside of
tonight?
the
Was that
power
not on the
play.
power play?
Donskoy did on the power play.
Oh, I was on the power play.
And I know Sod has another one, but I can't remember necessarily if that
I
was on
know
the power
that
play or not. So yes,
I know that Donskoy has 2 goals on the year, so I think the other one was at even strength. But the Avalanche were the best 5 on
he
5
could
team
be
in the
the
league
only one.
last year, and this year we've
Yes,
got more
by
goals on the
far.
power play than 5 on 5. Which I'm glad our power play is rolling, but I do want to see the Avs step it up at 5 on 5.
And
Yeah.
if we can, especially get some of those bottom 9 players start rolling on 5 on 5, this is an absolutely dominant team, and that's kind of part of the expectations that were put on the Avs at the start of the season.
Mhm.
I'm looking really for Kadri and Sod to start to pick it up because
Mhm.
both of them have been pretty freaking invisible.
Yeah, Kadri, I mean, both of them to be honest, but Kadri in particular is especially disappointing because we saw how good he has been at times for the Avs last year. You know, Sod, we haven't seen it yet, so I would like to see it eventually, but Kadri just is not playing as well as he did last year. He's not playing as well as he did in the playoffs, and we need to see him start scoring because it just hasn't been there so far.
Yeah.
Right.
I know at the start of last season he did get off to a pretty rocky start, so maybe we can
Yeah,
see him turn that around a little bit.
just a slow
Yeah.
starter.
Also, I'm looking forward to seeing Bo again. Like
Yep.
he's definitely going to stay in the lineup. He was amazing tonight, and maybe he is a second, Chemical Car 2.0 kind of thing here. Like he really showed
from,
some. He showed me
If
some
he
stuff
is, I'm
tonight.
all for it.
from
Like
what we saw tonight,
right,
yeah,
like
from what we saw
you see
tonight,
it in the World Juniors. You see it against boys there, not really boys, but top talent in the world. But you see it there. It's another thing to do it in the NHL against a veteran like Ryan Getzloff like that. Absolutely
yeah,
make him
breaks his
slip up like
ankles.
that and get a beautiful shot on goal. I'm excited to see what this kid can bring.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Byram.
me too.
Byram is the most exciting thing I think to come out of tonight's game.
Oh yeah,
Even more so than the win, especially getting it done 3-on-3, which we couldn't do it all last year. But if if Byram can play how he did tonight, moving forward, I not only do I think he doesn't come out of the lineup, I think he eventually has a legitimate chance to force his way into some more minutes, especially in key situations. Maybe even taking his top 4 role.
yeah, dude, I totally agree. And Bo is another guy. You're gonna focus on the offense with a guy like Bo, but like Kale, he's got
Mm-hmm.
really sneaky defensive skills, and you
He
could see it in
does.
this first game, making amazing breakout passes between two players, whether that's skating into the zone, out of the zone. He's just all over the place, and his skating speaks for itself. That's really the best part of
He
his game
does.
so far.
Yeah, no, that's Zach. That's a great point. And something that the main reason that the Avs sent him back into the WHL last season is to work on his defensive game. And to this point, there is no struggles at all with his defensive game. He's making sneaky plays, like you said, Zach, deep in our zone, and making some high quality breakout passes. So he is very impressive to me. I think he is a guy that we're gonna maybe even have to rely on a little bit on that back end moving forward. I know that Beds was playing him a little bit with Kale in the last game, and I think that he was even playing him a little bit more with Kale in this game. And when they were out there, it was pretty
Put
freaking
those two out
impressive.
with three-headed monster, and you have likely the most offensive, potent 5-man lineup the NHL has right now.
you, you do, especially if Bo can develop his game a
Yeah.
little bit, man. There's no question that that's the most potent 5 on 5 lineup in the entire league. So that's something extremely that we could be excited about. Something else that we can be excited about is that the Avs played, in my opinion, a D plus type of game, and we still squeak out the win. So
Yeah, I might give them
Right.
a C- because they played well in the third, but this was not a good game out of the Avs, and
okay.
they came out with the overtime win. So, and Zach, you mentioned you're not too worried about dropping the point to the Ducks. If it were Vegas, if it were
Yeah.
St. Louis, I'd be a little upset that we gave up that 1 point with the Ducks. Not super worried about it. I have a hard time believing that comes back to bite us. So a win's a win tonight, and you can't always play your best game, and if you're winning on your bad nights, that is a good sign. So I'm
Yes.
happy with it. I'm happy with where the Avs are. Do you guys have anything else to add before we head on out of here?
Should we do a little bit around the NHL?
Yeah, let's go for it because that's 7
I mean,
nothing
because
blowout.
mostly I just want to. That's one thing I wanted to touch on. But in Minnesota, looking pretty scary to this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, and how about Krill? That he's
Yeah,
kind of a beast.
he's
He's kind of a beast.
It's hard to call someone a runaway favorite for the Calder 5 games into the season, but is Kirill Kaprizov a runaway favorite for the Calder? Because the other two
I
were
think
not
he
playing
could
all that
be.
great. Lafreniere's not been great so far, and neither is Shesterkin.
Yeah, no, this guy's
I-
bona fide. I'm pretty sure he had like 3 20-goal seasons in the
Mhm.
KHL before coming over
Dude,
here.
he was sick in the KHL.
Yeah, he's the
He was
bona fide
sick.
goal scorer. Like this guy can do it.
Yeah. No, like I think he's as much of a runaway as Kale was before he got injured last season, and that's saying
Yeah.
quite a bit. The Wild are looking pretty freaking good. Their competition hasn't necessarily been as great so far, but I think if we're looking around that West Division, the Wild easily are my fourth spot.
Yeah, I
So
think that's it's become a pretty easy pick to me in the last week and a half here because the Coyotes look terrible. The Ducks don't look very good. The Kings don't look very good at all. The Sharks have not had the bounce back we thought they had a chance to. So it looks like it's the Wild spot to
Dude.
lose right now.
the Sharks, with the whole Burns and Carlson D pairing, they both look as washed as anyone in the league.
Yeah, it's tough. They're paying them a lot of money too.
Yeah, and they're. I have both of them on one of my fantasy teams.
Oof, that's a big yikes.
That's tough. All right, and let's just touch on that 7-0 blowout. Dallas over Nashville. You don't see Dallas
Yeah.
score 7 goals very often.
No, you do not.
Uh,
Radulov had this pretty insane game. I mean, to me, I feel like Dallas is a little bit slept on because they're without Sagan. They're not necessarily around the NHL world. They're not exactly expecting them to do what they did last season. But dude, they were in the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm kind of glad that they're not in the West because they're a pretty scary team if they can get everything rolling again and play that defensive style of game that they're very accustomed to playing.
yeah, definitely. That's what they love to do, and they have players that can put the puck in the net with like Heiskanen and Klingberg and Sagan when he comes back. They're a scary team, and I think you're right, Marshall. They are kind of slept on, even though they went
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
all the way last year.
we all knew that last year was a little bit of a fluke, and I think we overcorrected a little bit when we were ranking Dallas this year. And instead of putting them where they were, which like last year they were a pretty strong 4th in the West, we put them at this is just another one of those bad West teams that's on the fringe, and that's not really what they are. So let's not overlook the Dallas Stars in that Central Division. It's a pretty solid division. It's got a little bit of depth to it, but I think they are definitely a playoff team and look like they're gonna make some run at it. So we'll have to see with them. Jim
Yeah.
PLD, we did touch
Yeah.
on him a little bit yesterday, so go ahead and watch that podcast if you want to hear our thoughts on him. If things start to heat up a little bit, we might do like an episode or something on that. But for now, we're just gonna leave with what we said yesterday. Go ahead, Zach, if you had something.
I think. Oh, I was just gonna say, Zach and I were talking about it a little bit tonight. I think it's pretty clear cut that PLD is going to Winnipeg for
All
Laine.
right.
Yeah, I
That's
think
my
that's pretty
prediction.
likely as well. I
And
think
to
that's
be
pretty
honest,
likely.
if we want to touch on, give it a couple of minutes here, that's not necessarily the greatest outcome for either player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would, especially for Line A. I think Line A is the one that wanted to go to a bigger market and play with better players. But for PLD, to me, I think that's really just a coaching issue, and maybe
is.
he meshes a lot. He meshes with the people in Winnipeg. I don't know, but I think
Yeah,
it's a
but-
worse situation for Line
Yeah.
to get sent to Columbus.
I'm not-
for sure.
Yes,
Oh, go
but at
ahead,
the same
Marco.
time, at the same time, NHL players do not like playing in Winnipeg. Winnipeg
Yeah.
is
Yes, I have heard
not
that.
exactly a high attraction.
Yeah, when they got Paul
zone,
Stastny, it was a pretty big surprise when he came over in free agency. So I'm not quite as sold as you guys are on that specific deal. I definitely think it's up there, one of the more likely possibilities.
I
But
think it's
I
the favorite.
definitely think there's definitely still some work to be done to see what exactly happens.
Correct.
Get sent to
LMAO, I want to
Tampa.
get.
Yeah, bigger market. Winnipeg is not
That's
that.
true.
So hopefully, for his sake,
No.
we get a little bit of a better trade. Maybe he gets sent to New York or some Tampa Bay. Even would be better than Winnipeg or Columbus. All right,
Dude,
guys, give me some final thoughts
Anywhere,
before we close
really.
out this pod, and we're gonna get out of here.
Go, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I also told Zach tonight, like, especially in the second period, I'd just be happy if the Avs squeaked out even a point from this game, and we ended up squeaking out two. So the Avs were not at their best, but this is the type of win that we know that the Avs can get.
All right, and
going
we
down the
need
line.
as many wins as we can get because we want to make a run at that division title. It's something that we haven't done yet. We've been good for a couple years, but we haven't won the division. Hopefully, this is our year. But thank you to all of our viewers for watching. If you haven't already, leave a like on this video. It really helps us with the growth. Subscribe to the channel, and that way you can watch all of our podcasts. If you're not watching this on YouTube, go ahead and check us out on YouTube. You get it first. It takes us a little while to get some of the VODs up and get everything uploaded to our other platforms. So YouTube is the best place to watch us. And that's all we've got for you today. So we will see you guys in our next podcast.